Hey, what's going on, everybody? We have made it to the end of the road for the second season and the initial run of Twin Peaks. So hopefully you've enjoyed it through this little journey of ours. Hopefully if you're a new watcher and this is your first time watching the show, that you enjoyed it and got some enjoyment out of the ending and how it played out. It's a bit shocking to say the least. One of the more shocking finales in television history, especially given we were probably let at least under the assumption that we were going into what would possibly be a happy ending or a bittersweet ending or a sad ending, but not necessarily what we got. I know I was shocked when I first watched. But yeah, let's get to it. This episode is episode 22 of season 2, the very last episode of the initial run of Twin Peaks, and the name of the episode is Beyond Life and Death. Apparently Andy has a pet name for Lucy, and they confess their love for each other. I'm not sure if they'll be in season 3 or not, but we'll have to wait and see. Of course, the officers are looking for Windom Earle. They have no trace of him. Dale stares at the map of where the cave painting was giving them directions where to find. He sees the giant, the little man, and fire. He repeats, "Fire walk with me" several times. Pete comes in and tells him that the log lady stole his truck and drove it up to the woods, which kind of triggers the answer, I guess, in Dale's head that the Ghostwood Forest is the location of the Black Lodge. And the circle of trees we saw and the small pool of liquid around that kind of white circle where Bob appeared is where the sycamore grove is that Harry mentions is called Glastonbury Grove, which, of course, is the reputed burial site of King Arthur in Glastonbury. Interesting. I'm not sure if it's just, they used it as a, kind of something different to name it, because I don't think there's any one-to-one supernatural link between King Arthur, other than it was like a myth and a legend, perhaps, so maybe that plays into it. And we find out that this is exactly where Hawk found the bloody towel and the pages of the diary. So after Bob did the killing, he must have vanished back into the lodge. Margaret, aka the log lady, brings a jar of oil. Her husband apparently brought the oil back before he died. I don't know how he would have acquired it. Maybe he found the opening to the lodge and brought the oil back, and he died and was killed because he found the location to the lodge. That's what I'm assuming happened, because he died in a fire shortly after this happened, and we see that he probably went there with with a jar or something and scooped up some of that oil that was out in that sycamore grove and brought it back, and maybe somebody from the lodge decided to get rid of him because of his meddling. It's hard to say. But yeah, it is that scorched engine oil smell, and this is what Dr. Jacoby smelled in the hospital when Leland, who was inhabited by Bob at the time, killed Jacques Renault. So that is why he smelled that kind of bizarre smell, is because that was kind of a tip-off to Bob's presence in the area, that scorched engine smell. Ronette recognizes the smell immediately, and is obviously very terrified. She remembers it from the night that Laura died. And yeah, so that basically, like I said, that pool that we saw, where we saw looked into and saw the curtains for the Black Lodge. It's that oil of some type. Wyndham takes Annie to the circle of trees. He basically needs her to kind of radiate fear in order. I don't know if he needs her to radiate fear in order to find the opening, or what. But she starts kind of, I don't know, saying certain prayers. I'm not sure what they are, or something kind of, I guess, she's trying to keep her mind kind of focused and not given to her fear, but it's too late. He drags her into the circle of trees, and it's like she almost becomes hypnotized or in a trance of some sort. The curtains appear, and then they enter. And then we basically got a couple scenes that are wrap-ups of some side stories. Nadine comes back to her original grouchy middle-aged self, realizes that Ed and Norma are together now, and so yeah. Ben Horn comes over to the Haywards, all hell breaks loose, and Andrew Packard tries to sneak the key that was the prize for unlocking for that kind of puzzle box, but Pete walks in on him. Dale and Harry find Pete's truck. Dale suddenly he gets kind of a look on his face, almost like Annie's when she was pulled into the circle. It's almost like, I don't know, he sensed something or something took a hold of him, because his demeanor and the way he delivered those last words to Harry about saying he needs to go alone, they're different than him. So either he kind of felt a pull or a tugging from the presence of the lodge, because remember, he's considered one of the gifted, according to the one-armed man, because remember, Bob is seen by the gifted and the damned, so there's something special about Cooper, to say the least. The owls are watching, of course. I imagine they're kind of sentinels of some sort, watching who's coming to the lodge. I'm not sure if the owls are necessarily, the spirits themselves in the lodge, or if they happen to be just I don't know, psychopomps or something. It's hard to say. The spotlight and the curtains open, allowing Dale in, and Harry, after having kind of snuck up behind him, watches Dale enter the lodge. The spotlight on the opening vanishes, and Harry's basically shocked. He can't believe what he's just seen. He's basically seen an act, a miracle or an act of the supernatural that shouldn't exist in the rational world. So basically, a door between worlds was entered. Inside the lodge, we hear a very kind of eerie song starting out as Dale enters what is the waiting room. It's basically what the name of that room is. And the midget tells us that, but yeah, it's basically like a lobby waiting room or something. He comes out to dance as usual in his red outfit, saunters over to his chair. I'm not sure what the singer represents, if he's one of the spirits of the lodge. Has a pretty cool singing voice. I'm sure he's a famous singer of some sorts. I just don't recognize him, so I didn't look it up to see who it was, but I'm sure he's, if those, some people would be able to pick him out and recognize him. Yeah, but the song it's just brief, but he has a cool sounding voice, so it's kind of a fitting introduction to Dale coming into the lodge. He just kind of stares in wonder and a bit of alarm, I imagine. Because you got to remember, this is the place of pure concentrated evil. So, and the place where you cannot enter with imperfect courage, I should say, as according to Hawk. So, needless to say, he's kind of, in a way, almost like he's challenged the place by entering it. It's almost like on a quest, in a way, where he's entered this. It's almost like entering like a dungeon or a labyrinth or something. And he's got to come out alive after he's found Annie. So he's being tested by this place. After the song ends, the singer then vanishes. Just fades out and is no longer there. And then we see, Dale's kind of just still in wonder and not certain where he's actually come to, because, you got to imagine the gravity of of entering such a place. That's not something to take lightly. In the morning, Andy finally catches up with Harry, and they wait for Dale to return or to escape or whatever from the lodge. About 10 hours have passed since he's been in there. Who knows what the passing of time within the lodge is, if it's the same as in the outside world, if it's longer, if it's shorter, it's hard to say. Or I should say faster or slower. And then Andy kind of absent-mindedly asks Harry if he wants breakfast, and Harry's just kind of just still shell-shocked, I think, a little bit, and just staring at the pool of oil, kind of in just complete disbelief of what actually happened. I wish they had, to be honest, I wish that the, just so I get to this part with Andrew and Pete and Audrey, handcuffing herself to the, the bars of the bank, and Pete and Andrew kind of coming to the deposit or the safety deposit box with the key. I wish that they could have gotten that all done. I mean, it wouldn't have. Obviously, the way it ends wouldn't have allowed for what happened in season 3 to take place. But I don't know. It just seems like it's kind of out of place, even though it's kind of necessary, I guess, because they have to jump back to the outside world. I guess to show some passing of time. But I would have just almost liked it that if they had built it up so that the entire episode was basically, Windom Earle and Annie enter. Dale finds the place, and then there's no outside activity as far as what goes on in Twin Peaks, and it's just the lodge itself and nothing else. But it doesn't ruin it. I don't know. It's kind of breaks the mood, I guess, a little bit. But we get back to it, and it stays in the lodge till the end. So anyway, so the safety deposit box contains a bomb. So that was Thomas's parting gift, was to blow up Andrew and Pete. And Jack Nance, the actor that plays Pete Martell, isn't alive anymore. He passed away a while ago. So I'm assuming though his character and Andrew's character are dead for good. Because Andrew, obviously, he was an elderly man when that was filmed. So unless he's, he'd probably be pushing 100 or something. So yeah, I doubt we'll be told anything about it in season 3. So yeah, kind of a crappy way to go, especially for Pete. Such a nice, he's a decent guy. Kind of a crappy way for him. It would have almost been better if it had been Catherine and Andrew that went there and they got blown up. That would have, Pete would have been free from the wife that makes his life a living hell. At the diners, Sarah is brought in by Dr. Jacoby to deliver a message to Major Briggs. She says, and basically it seems like almost like a voice that's either she's kind of the conduit for someone from the lodge, speaking in kind of a distorted voice, and says, "I'm in the Black Lodge with Dale Cooper," and then afterwards it says, "I'm waiting for you." I'm not sure who she's speaking for, unless it's Annie communicating outward, but I don't know if that's the case, or if it's Laura's shadow self in there. That part is hard because it says, "I'm in the Black Lodge with Dale Cooper," and if it had been, "I'm in the Black Lodge with Annie," and it was Dale Cooper communicating with her, that I think that would have made a little bit more sense. So I'm not quite sure who she is speaking on behalf of. Yeah. So, or maybe it was Leland. I don't know. It's hard to say. A mystery that has yet to be solved. Though I do believe Grace Zabiskie is still alive and kicking. I know she did a small role on the show The Killing, which is a detective show that is based in Seattle, and so I'm sure she's going to be reprising her role as Sarah. So I would hope that, given her abilities, psychic abilities, and supernatural, sensitivity to that in their dreams and her visions, that she I hope she plays a major role in, actually, if they're trying to hunt down Dale Cooper, actually, I hope she gets to take the forefront. I think that would be really cool. But like I said, I haven't been looking into the previews or anything because I don't want to be spoiled. But that would be my wish, that Sarah Palmer gets to kind of shine as one of the people to really help out. But anyway, let's get back. The arm, of course, talks to Dale in the strange manner that we're used to from the denizens of the Black Lodge. Laura Palmer shows up, and basically says, "I'll see you again in 25 years. And just a little bit more than that, we're going to have season 3. Pretty cool. It's weird. Then she kind of poses almost like she's modeling something. Maybe it's supposed to be she's modeling a thing of perfume or something. I don't know. It's almost like, like somebody would be on a game show where the Bob Barker, somebody would be describing the item that the person could win, and they'd be holding it in that manner. It's kind of funny. Yeah, so it's 25 years. The prediction was very accurate. She then vanishes, and then the old man shows up, our good old friend Senor Drool Cup, with some coffee for Dale. But we'll see eventually that it may not be what it appears. And we know that the old man is kind of a trusted individual. So I'll jump ahead to what happens in a little bit. But the coffee, as we see a little bit later, it changes kind of from a liquid to kind of a solid state to a liquid to a thicker, viscous material, and I think that's supposed to be the same oil. The Black Lodge is oil, that whatever that stuff represents. And I personally think it's the Lodge is testing him, trying to see if Dale will trust the old man who's also the giant. They say they were one and the same when the giant appears. To drink the coffee without question, maybe as a trap or a trick. This is my speculation. Because I'm pretty sure that it's the same. That coffee is supposed to be when he pours it out, it's supposed to be that oil that opens is a gateway or a way between or to open a door, like the log lady said that her husband believed. So the giant, like he says, the giant appears and says one and the same. We knew that. We knew that the giant and the old man were basically one and the same when the giant inhabited the old man, like Bob inhabited Leland. The midget, while he's kind of looking at Dale, wondering if I think he's in his mind, he's wondering if Dale's gonna drink the coffee or not, and he gets kind of a wicked look on his face and begins to rub his hands, and then Dale pours the coffee out, or whatever that crap is, and then the midget says, "Wow, Bob, wow," and then followed by "Fire walk with me." The lights go out, and there's a strobe light effect, and that's basically all you have to illuminate the room. We hear a horrific scream, and then Dale wanders off into the hallway, into this hallway section for the first time. I'm going to try to keep these two straight. Basically, room number 2 and room number 1. Room number 1 is the one he was just in, where we had the Laura appear, the giant appear. So I'm going to consider that room number 1. Like I said, it may get a bit messy, but I'm not, it's the only way, because they're basically almost like opposites of each other inside the lodge, these two rooms, because one is like it's like there's the shadow self, and then there's one that's like I don't know, it's very strange, and then you've got the doppelganger type thing, but we'll try to make sense of that. Like I said, he ends up back in room number 2, which is basically the same as the waiting room, except for there's nobody there. He returns, finds a kind of a different version of the midget, which is basically almost kind of creepy in a way. He's got these, which you'll see, these kind of glazed over, almost opaque eyes, which are signifying that he's a doppelganger of the other. It's almost like, I don't know, it's strange, because I guess these entities within have two sides. I guess one is the malevolent evil side, and one is I don't know if it's supposed to be a false front. I know, it's just kind of weird, where they try to appear, in a certain way, and then they actually show themselves as they are in their evil form. Maddie appears and tells Dale to watch out for her cousin, and then vanishes. Dale returns to the first room, or room number 1, finds it empty. And the midget is there and says the word doppelganger, which is basically a twin or a copy of the person, like they're like a copy or a clone or whatever of the person. Laura's there, and her eyes are glazed over in the same way, so it's basically Laura's doppelganger. So, only thing I can think of is even though it's weird because the prequel movie contradicts some of this, but I'm not going to talk about the prequel movie because I'll spoil it. But I can't imagine that it's Laura in there and her doppelganger. So I don't know if it may be a trick that the Lodge is playing on people. It shows in order to kind of get to trick them into thinking that they're actually talking to the real person when the doppelganger is the real them. Anyway, yeah, she screams basically all psychotically. She does it's amazing that scream she can do. Definitely really freaky. Sort of kind of hobbles, almost walks over towards him. To where Dale runs basically back to the room number 2. He looks down and he sees a trail of blood behind him, coming from his stomach. It's either the place where he was stabbed by Windom Earle way back when, or I'm assuming it was Windom Earle that stabbed him, or where he was shot by Josie. So it may have been where he was shot by Josie. So he follows the blood trail back down the hall to the first room, and he sees what looks to be Caroline lying next to himself, both dead, with the wounds, the one where she was stabbed in the aorta and he was shot. So both presumed dead, but it's not Caroline, it's actually Annie. So she sits up and looks around, and notice how the one important thing is notice how Dale's voice isn't like the others in the Lodge. So basically, it's him, and everything else is a possible illusion, a trick, some kind of strange spell or something that the Lodge. The Lodge may have its own entity. It's hard to say. But I think it's to signify that Dale we're kind of, he's in there, he's still himself. So it's basically kind of his, obviously it's not a first person perspective, but we know that he's an outsider. He hasn't been assimilated into the Lodge in any way because his voice isn't all weird. The lights go out. Dale starts calling out for Annie. He finds her in I'm assuming one of the other rooms, room number 2 possibly. Like I said, at this point it doesn't matter. He's basically going back and forth between those 2 locations through that hallway. She's in the outfit that she wore when they danced. I'm pretty sure that's it. When the giant tried to dissuade him or try to tell him that no, don't let her enter the Miss Twin Peaks contest. She tells Dale that she knows she saw the face of the man who killed her, but Dale's kind of like, well, what do you mean? Because Annie, you're not dead. Nobody killed you. And then Caroline appears, but her eyes are glazed over. So I'm not sure if Annie and Caroline are, since they're both in a way to Dale, they both kind of represent the same thing. So I'm not sure if Annie and her are kind of, because we only see Caroline with her eyes glazed over. We don't see Caroline as we did with like Laura where she looks normal. So Annie and her are kind of switching places. So maybe that Annie and her are 2 sides of the same coin or something. Annie appears again right after that, and then we see the doppelganger Laura appear, who screams, and then her face kind of goes back to normal. And then Windom Earle appears with Annie. Annie then kind of vanishes, and Windom offers Annie's life in exchange for Dale's soul. And Dale agrees, and then Windom stabs him, But Windom made a fatal mistake, and we see time basically reversed with the fire. Bob appears and has basically got a hold of Windom. Windom, I think, my guess is that basically if you go in to the Black Lodge with the mindset that Windom had, with, I'm going to usurp or be granted power by the Lodge, and it's almost like he's being tricked. He was basically led there to be destroyed because of or to be made one of them. So it's basically like a trap, basically. And Windom goes in there with this arrogance that he thinks he's going to somehow ascend to some more powerful state of being, and he assumes that he can make bargains for the souls of people that enter that place. And nope, that's not how it works. He's not one of the denizens of the lodge. He's also a visitor. So not too smart, Windom. And Bob's basically says, no, he can't ask for your soul, but I will take his. And it's pretty cool how he takes Windom's soul. It's like this fire comes shooting out behind him, and Bob kind of absorbs it into his hand. So yeah, I'm not sure if fire is supposed to represent the soul or a manifestation of the soul, as opposed to, light, or some kind of glowing type, energy or something. So maybe that has something to do with it. But he basically, like I said, this stream of fire shoots out kind of from behind Windom. Windom's just kind of screaming or yelling out loud, and then goes silent, goes still. So Bob basically is taking his soul. And then as Dale leaves, he kind of looks at him with this kind of, that typical Bob, psychotic look. And then from the curtains from the back, Dale's doppelganger shows up, or his shadow self, as we should say. And Bob and Dale, laughed maniacally together. And Dale escapes that room. The good Dale, we should say. Leland Palmer's doppelganger appears and says that he did not kill anybody. Dale sees his own doppelganger come from the other room and flees. Leland and Dale's doppelganger share a smile, and then Dale is pursued. And Dale is eventually caught by his doppelganger, or shadow self. See, that's where it's confusing, is we have the White Lodge and the Black Lodge. I'm really hoping season 3 really solves a lot of this, so I can go back in and do some I'm not going to revise or redo the videos based on that, but I hope some of this stuff, because basically if you've got, I'll get to it at the very end. So yeah, we see that Dale's caught by the doppelganger, his shadow self, and then we see an up close shot of Bob's face right in front of the camera before Dale emerges from the lodge with Annie. So if you're caught, I mean that in itself should foreshadow something, and it's something that we're assuming that Dale escaped from the shadow self by falling out of the lodge, like he got through the curtain at the last minute and escaped. But I don't think that's the case, and I think it was a foreshadowing to conclude that Dale did not pass the test of the lodge. Dale wakes up back at the Great Northern and obviously doesn't seem to be himself. He asks how Annie is. Harry tells him she's at the hospital, and Dale says he needs to brush his teeth. He says it again, rather robotically. And then he goes into the bathroom and looks himself in the mirror, and then headbutts the mirror, which obviously alerts the other two, Doc Hayward and Harry. And then look who we see in the reflection in the mirror. We see Bob. Did you expect that when you saw that scene? Did you expect Dale to enter the Black Lodge and fail his test to embrace, or to I guess it's not embrace, to I guess what would you say, to embark and to face the test of the lodge and his shadow self and fail, to show imperfect courage, as Hawk would say? Though I'm not sure that his soul was annihilated. That may just be part of the myth that isn't confirmed in what really happens. But yeah, Dale is now possessed by Bob in the same way that Leland was possessed by Bob. And I imagine Dale, I don't know how well Bob will be able to manipulate Dale in the upcoming season. And I'm curious if, now that I think Frank Silva has passed on, if they'll use a different character to represent Bob, or if they just won't show that character, or they'll try to superimpose some old stuff onto or include it into the new. Yeah, so basically Dale failed. He went in there to get Annie back and came out possessed. So it's a hell of a way to end it. The hero fails. He doesn't succeed, though he did save Annie. She's alive at the hospital, but of course, I don't think Bob's done dealing with her yet. But then again, maybe Annie, because Heather Graham is, she's not that old, so I'm hoping that she'll return as Annie, or something we'll hear about her, because she was in the lodge with Windom Earle, so she's come back with probably, with knowledge of what's taken place. So we'll have to see if that plays itself out in season 3. So yeah, what is going to happen? We've got an unsuspecting group of people in Twin Peaks who have all kind of come to know Dale Cooper as kind of the quirky, enigmatic FBI agent who is, was always kind of basically shown that he's, good at heart. And so the fact that Bob would be able to possess him has probably gone over the head of pretty much everybody there. So as long as Bob isn't foolish in the same way that he was with Leland when he got caught because he got too arrogant, yeah. But then again, like I said, it's 25 years. I'm assuming they're gonna be able to fill in that time with some information. So it's, like I said, it's anybody's guess of what's gonna come up this Sunday, but I'm looking forward to it. Good stuff. Yeah. So this is it for the first run of Twin Peaks. So cool. It was actually a 50-minute episode. I thought it was going to be 90. I don't know why, but yeah, it made it easier anyway. So yeah, this concludes it. So I'm going to do the movie next, and I decided that I am going to just review the release, the theatrical release, or the director's cut, or whatever, but not with the extra bonus scenes that I was talking about. I think I'm just going to do the movie itself, just do and discuss what's in it, and then maybe make a side episode at some other time with extra stuff added in, just as a separate, aside from this bonus features review, and then discuss more of the of what's in there that applies to the more the Black Lodge stuff and the denizens of the Black Lodge. So yeah, I think it'll be easier. I'll just do the review the version that everybody has access to, and that way I can keep it shorter also. So yeah, folks, hope you enjoyed it. That concludes all 30 episodes, 8 in season 1 and 22 in season 2. I'll have this up on the site, and I'll get working on the movie, and should have it up and ready in a couple days. Until then, folks, take it easy.